back to the Farming Chefs. Today I'm taking you on a little walk along on our farm and I'm hoping to show you all the different areas and where we're at the moment. So I thought that would be a nice update. I hope you enjoy. This is the street that I walk almost daily to get to the farm. And actually there is an entrance right here on the corner. And I don't have the key for this gate. So what I usually do is I just walk around. And here we come across our electric pole. And it's at the corner of our property. And this is where we've been hooked up to the grid this week. Big news and very satisfying. And then I take this little gravel road to the right, which leads to our first entrance, which is the gate that Philippe and Renato made in the very beginning. And voila, here she is. A lot of our compost is already gone. There are 23 or 24 bags here. Most of this was used for our garden build last week. As you can tell, not much remains. I just saw that some of the bags that were emptied out blew away, so I'm just gonna quickly clean. Something I recommend to all people walking outdoors whenever you see something to be done, anything small. Just do it straight away. So much easier. And you have no idea how much, pardon my French, crap we already found on this farm. There's so much junk lying around. Plastic and empty bottles. Just incredible. Just gonna put this down here. Just gonna throw a stone on it so it won't fly away. And I'll have the boys take care of this later. Then from here on out, I'm going to walk to the last bit of swamp we have on the farm right now, which is a very wet area. It still hasn't drained. I'm gonna walk around, but I don't know if you can hear it, but my feet are... This is a very interesting little spot because there's all these pillars here. I don't know if you can tell. And these are, we thought, gravestones, but it turns out that they're old remnants of stables, which is a little less grim, but also less interesting. Take these little steps across the little river. Here's the little creek, which was streaming full of water just a month ago. And then I move along to the center of the farm. This is the area that maybe has been the most transformed since we've gotten here. So this was one big pile of brambles and overgrown vines. And now it's just a nice field ready to be used. Currently home to our chickens, our new egg layers. This is the latest little addition. We're trying to use as much recycled material currently as we can, as we are spending our money on other infrastructures on the farm. Gotta make those choices, of course, but this is just an improvised solution to keep a lot of things dry, and that's just a very nice addition. Here are onions curing. And then what we're looking at the side here is our interior paddock, I would like to call it. So this is our rocky area on the farm. This is almost completely bedrock, and there's an ancient little structure here, which we've been told once housed a family of 11, which is hard to believe if you look at the size of it. But I believe it. And we've decided to make this into an enclosed pasture so that we can just put our animals here if our grass maybe needs break, or if we want to round them up for slaughter or moving them. And here on the outside of the paddock we have our trailer as an improvised stable. This is in the waiting of the renovation of the little building I just showed. And then behind the trailer we look into our olive grove. This I think is our nicest olive grove. This actually has the oldest trees standing here. And in the midst of this olive grove we have a giant ditch growing. We have a giant ditch which now is dry, but 1 month ago also was running full of water. It's actually quite an interesting story because we had this ditch dug last September, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was already end of October. Late autumn anyways. And that was to keep the moisture out of our middle part of the farm. And we managed to do that for a big part of it, but unfortunately not entirely, because we figured out that even though this was great earthworks and they definitely served the purpose, we have another ditch on the other side of this piece of land that also still needs digging, because we found out only too late though that that ditch had been clogged up with years and years of not being cleaned. So unfortunately it was higher than the water level, it was higher than the water that it was supposed to drain off, hence water draining into the other part of our farm, creating sort of a swampy area where the tunnel was. And that is why we've now chosen to move the tunnel, and we'll also be digging out the ditch. This is an extremely beautiful quince. It's gigantic. And not too long ago I made some quince jam with beautiful quinces from these trees, bushes. They're just extremely beautiful little flowers. And the ditch goes straight through this plant, so it's a hell of a dig. So this is the area where the tunnel used to be, which then actually moves up into our new fruit grove. And we have our deer sheep grazing in between our lanes of trees. Next week we're going to start giving these trees a little bit of extra love. Some of them still need their final coating. And then right next to our herd we have our mobile broiler coop grazing away. The lambs seem to be loving the grass here. It looks very lush and green. It's rained a little at night, so the grass has exploded. So this is the beauty of this netting, because we wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have this netting, which we can just move from pasture to pasture, from strip to strip. And that is exactly what we'll be doing. Our strip grazing. Turning around from the pasture, I'm looking back onto the small test garden, which is actually looking lush. Got our potatoes coming up, got our leeks, chard and peas, beetroots, more potatoes, broad beans, leftovers from our carrots, and a lot more peas and some fennel. From here we then have our well, which also is still very full, but not as full as the other one. This is the home to many frogs. From here on out, I can then take up a little step. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So here we move into the second olive grove. And here are also a few very nice old trees. And while I walk in this beautiful olive grove, to my left, what do I find? It's hard to see into the sun. A brand new garden. Well, isn't that looking pretty? We actually have olive trees standing by to be planted, but it's probably going to be in the autumn. And then here, boom, the hard work of the boys. Or should I say the men? I should say the men, shouldn't I? And this is going to be the second enclosure. This is where we will keep the sheep before milking them in the future. So day number 2 of the farm vlog. I got caught up yesterday and I started helping making the fence with Renato and Philippe, because they needed an extra set of hands, and then it was time to go and get the kids. So I'm just continuing on our little vlog. As you see, the weather changed. Today it's a bit more grey, but that's also sort of nice and cool to then take you around. So I am where we dropped off yesterday. As you can see, up the hill there is the house, and here we have the stable. This stable was already present when we arrived, and we're going to do it up and probably enlarge it. But as for now, we're going to use it as the entrance into the new paddock. And this will probably be the place where we'll be milking, where I'm standing now. Ooh, very tight. Then from here, you can go up onto the top hill property, as we call it. This is the third piece of land we managed to get into our possession. And on this property there are loads of eucalyptus and mimosa trees. Locally, mimosa trees are considered a plague. I really love them, and in Italy they celebrate Women's Day with their beautiful yellow flowers by gifting women these trees. Here in Portugal that would not be considered a favor. And here, for instance, is one of the beautiful examples of one of these majestic eucalyptus. Now this is an example of those mimosas I was talking about. They are at the end of their flowering stage already again. Some of them are still beginning, but most of them have flowered out. And Philippe and Renato did quite a lot of trimming here to open up the space under the trees. And we see this as maybe a future camping spot, because it will probably be nice and cool in summer. This is another little neat area on the farm. So we're really at the highest point now. And here we celebrated Renato's birthday the other week. And then here we have another little eucalyptus patch with a sombrero, with a cork oak or two. So let's walk back down, and then we'll walk to the other far end of the farm, which is really the last bit that I'm going to show you guys. So back to where we came from, passing the future sheep enclosure for milking. Just to give you an idea how old some of these olive trees are. They look like ancient artifacts, because in fact they are. It's a real shame, because some of these trees have been really maltreated. Once Philippe's grandparents didn't have the physical capacity any longer to take care of this land, sometimes people were hired to do it. And let's just say that the way of pruning in this area well, can be considered a dangerous act if you don't know who you're dealing with. Because some people will say that they know what they're doing, but really have no idea, and they end up just attacking your tree with a chainsaw. So this is where the sheep are on the right side. They'll be moved tomorrow. They haven't completely grazed the spot yet, but you can sort of tell the difference in the paddocks. So up there is what we call nut hill. Most of our nut trees are planted there. Might be hard to tell with this camera, but there are poles still marked with little red or yellow ribbons where we planted them. And we have our pine grove, is that what you would call it, up here. And then I'm going to take you up to our main charca water reservoir. So this is one of the main water points. It's looking a little grim right now. The microclimate got a little bit disturbed by our action, but we really needed to clear it out a little. As you can see, this willow loves it here. It grew to great heights, and we trimmed it back slightly, and there was a very big wall and barrier of brambles here, which we also took down. And the optimal solution for this pond would be to probably line it with bentonite mats so that the water won't just run out of it, as the ground is super porous here. See this fertile mound here next to it. Everything growing downhill from this pond is doing great right now because it has a lot of water. Very tall grasses, as you can see. And this is actually also the spot where we had another borehole. Boom! There you go, borehole. And then we end up at the other far end border, the far end limit of land. Here you see the remnants of wild boar. And this is the view from the east entrance, where the boys installed a new gate not too long ago. So these are our improvised compost heaps. These horrible looking heaps that you're seeing over here are our improvised compost heaps. We made these just because we had so much to clear, and we just decided that we did want to compost, but we didn't have the time or the space yet to actually install the compost heaps. So we decided to just go with this in-between solution for now, and we're going to move them and make them a whole lot more functional and aesthetically pleasing on a new location. So in this area, a lot of people drink water from plastic bottles, meaning there's a lot of this plastic waste. And we decided, because it's a very dry climate here, what better way to use these plastic bottles than to just fill them with water and have them at hand, maybe for watering of remote single trees in high summer. Just simple practical solutions. Well, from the tunnel onwards, there's the second large body of water that we have, Sharka number 2. We'll be using to irrigate the tunnel with. So one of the favorite things for me about this farm, and I think I share this with Philippe, is that we both think that the farm is just so diverse. There's so much going on. We've got the orchards, we've got the vineyard, we've got the new garden area now. The house area, of course, will be also really the heart of the farm in no time. So it's just a very pleasant experience getting all this diversity, which we're very lucky with, because there's a lot of nice trees here that were already present, and it just feels good to be adding on to that. This is the little stable in the Ariel area, which has in front of it a majestic and beautiful big fig tree. And then behind that you have our massive well, which actually sort of scares me. It's got this doom vibe to it. I think it's because it's so large and so deep and not very beautiful from the outside. This is the watering bucket. And boom, 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 boom. That's also very full. And it probably is that difference between the old stone and then going onto the cemented rim, which is making it aesthetically a beast. Roses are coming up. Oh, looking lush and green. Walking through this beautiful field of daisies. Just very nice. It's not even daisies, it's a type of chamomile. Just looks like daisies. Kaki tree getting its leaves in again. It's really quite satisfying making this round and just seeing all this green emerge and seeing all these trees starting to blossom. It's just a very great spring feeling. But I did have one very unfortunate discovery back through the swamp area. Can you hear it? Maybe not through the wind. I'm allergic to some sort of pollen that's in the air here, probably from pine trees. And I've never had an allergy before in my life. So it was a very unfortunate discovery, to say the least. And I've been having these extremely itchy eyes and lots of sneezing. And I have to say, it gave me a whole different perspective on people that suffer from allergies. So everybody out there with some sort of allergy, I feel your pain now and I'm with you. So, and that was that for our farm tour. I hope you enjoyed this walk along. There's still a lot of work to do, as you can see, but we're making big strides. I can't wait to make it all aesthetically pleasing. There are still some serious eyesores. The biggest one being our compost hills and a lot of crooked poles and concrete poles and metal poles standing around from previous adventures of other owners, let's say. But yeah, we're looking forward to changing it all, and we're loving the hard work. And thank you for following us. And if you like our content and you're not subscribed yet, please, we're trying to build a business here and support a family. It would be really much appreciated if you want to share our content out there into the world. Support regenerative agriculture. See you on the next one. The Farming Chefs. Peace out.